Okay, here we are with a smaller thing. Again, Carol Garrison here with Carol's Creative Escape. Coming to you live. I apologize. I had to restart the video just because my phone was not being cooperative and getting smaller for me. So here's the card. Now you can see the whole thing. We're just going to make this work tonight because some nights are just like that, right? So again, the card's a Z-fold card. It opens up like this. I've got these cute layered rectangles with just a little focal point with a flower. And then the paper, I'm letting the designer series paper be interesting, and a flap. I have used dies, I have used stamps, I have used ribbon, I have used designer series paper. You don't need to go to all of this extent. You could just cut out rectangles with your cutter if you don't have a die machine. You know, color your stamps, whatever makes it easiest for you to create a card that you like. For me, I would call this one on the simpler side for my style. I really like to let my paper add pop and pizzazz on my cards. And so I think that's what this one here has done. I am going to show you how to make this card, but I do need to give credit to the person that I found a video. It's Creative with G that I got this idea from. Creative Moments by G. I wasn't able to get all the measurements, so I did some educated guessing on it, and I think I've come where I need to be with measurements. It worked very well for me, so I will share those with you. We're going to start with a 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of paper. You will score it at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. And then you will take for that inside flap, this is 4 by 10.5 inches, scored at 5 1/4. And so that gives you that inside flap. For the inside of that flap, you'll need a piece of cardstock. I've chosen to use a vanilla or cream colored cardstock. This measures 3 3/4 by, this measures, 3 3/4 by 5. And then I've also got a designer series paper piece to put on the front. This also measures 3 3/4 by 5. That'll go on the front of the flap. And then I have 2 more pieces of navy cardstock. These pieces each measure 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. And then I have 2 pieces of designer series paper to layer on top of those. These each measure 1 5/8 by 5 inches. I'm just dropping everything by 1/4 of an inch. And then I dug through my scraps, and I've got a scrap piece of the blue paper. I used some of the designer paper and some of the very vanilla paper. These are you cut with the deckled rectangle dies from Stampin' Up, but you can use any dies that you have to create those layers. And then today, just for reference, again, I don't sell anything anymore, but I do want to let you know what stamp sets I'm using in case you're interested in trying to find them elsewhere. So this is Stampin' Up's Open Sea stamp. It is a retired stamp set, but certainly one that if you can find it available, you would be more than able to use it, or again, come up with some other stamp. And then I was playing a little bit with my black here, and it looks like I need to tip this up a little bit further. It should work. I'm debating whether my stamps look like they're 2 different thicknesses, but I think if I just tap down, it's going to work just fine. All right, so we're going to start by doing our assembly. The first thing I do like to do when I'm stamping, especially with dark colored inks, I like to get the stamping done first. That just simply allows me to let that start drying and make sure that when I start handling it, it is dry and I don't need to worry about getting ink on my fingers or my paper. So I'm going to start by stamping this right onto that cream piece of cardstock. That worked pretty good. I'm happy with where that landed, so I'm going to set that aside. For those of you who've watched my videos, you do know that I have a tendency to stick my card pieces into inky spots. So I am going to clean these stamps off right away, just so that I don't do that and ruin the card that I'm working on. And we'll go from there. So for those of you joining us tonight for the first time, my name is Carol Garrison, and I am with Carol's Creative Escape. I had to start my video over earlier tonight because I was running into issues getting it sized right in my phone, and my normal tricks were simply not working, and I had it too big so you couldn't see anything that I was working on. I got it fixed by starting the video over. Even my younger technical help wasn't able to help me tonight. It's just what happens. So the first thing we're going to do is fold this along the score lines. And you can probably tell I'm trying to do dramatic pauses here, looking for my bone folder. There we go. As I mentioned in the start of my previous video that I had to end unexpectedly, in order to get this part fixed, Facebook is really changing their policy on how long they retain videos, and they are now deleting even older videos. It had started out with just recent videos. I get that they can't be the holder of everyone's videos for a long time, so I don't disagree with their decision. I am disappointed in the decision, and so I'm now trying to find ways that I can be more efficient in my work too. So in the coming weeks, you will probably hear me share some information on making changes on how I am sharing my live videos. Right now, I believe I will start going live directly from YouTube. That saves me a couple steps in the process of just how I save my videos and things like that, which actually ends up taking a fair amount of time to transfer everything around. So I'm going to be kind of experimenting and trying a couple different things, but I want you to be aware of it ahead of time. I will post links. I will share information. I will probably post links for a while in Facebook, but what they tend to do when you go to outside sources is they do tend to bury you in the newsfeed a little bit more so that you don't show up quite as often either. So I've got to figure out how to handle this technology piece. Right now, I want to stamp the inside of my card a little bit as well with this ship. I love this set. It's one I used a lot, and I'm going to do just a little bit of third generation stamping on here because I want it on there, but I don't want it to take over the inside of my card. So by cutting it down a couple levels on the stamping, these are just, if you're wondering, scraps. I cleaned out some of my pocket card scrapbooking supplies, and those were ones that I knew designs I knew I wouldn't be using. And so they've become excellent scraps for making notes as well as doing some of that stamping off stuff. All right, so let's start with assembling while these pieces are drying. The first thing that I want to do is assemble this to the front of the inside flap. And this is just going to be centered kind of like this. Obviously, I am making a birthday card, and it is going to be what I would call a more masculine birthday card, but certainly if you've got a boating friend that is female, it would work with them as well. And then we're going to just center this on the inside of the card. I like to look at opposite corners, here and here, here and here, when I'm trying to center things. And then we'll get that adhered to the inside of the card, just like that. This is a very easy card to assemble. It does take a few minutes to prep just because there is some cutting to it, but it fortunately is straight cutting. And if you don't want to go with dies and want to make it even a little quicker, you could actually just cut rectangles or use punches if you've got big enough punches to create the focal point for the front of the card too. So I am just adhering these designer papers to the front of these pieces right here. And we will be actually attaching these here and here. It seems like sometimes you might want to put them here, but that actually isn't going to show. So we're just going to put them here and here. And again, I'm just using my adhesive to get these attached. And so looking at my opposite corners, we will go like that. And then I'd cut this in a straight line. That is not going to, because it's from the same column of the paper, they are not going to line up. That's okay. I can kind of make it go like this, and it's sort of, you know, but then I want it to go, oh, color-wise, we're just going to go like this. It's a Monday, and I swear I already feel like it's late in the week. I think I must not have slept enough this weekend. I'm feeling tired, guys. All right, so now we've got the foundation of the card. I'm going to go ahead and put this piece on the inside. And there we go. So again, you can write your note to the recipient of this birthday card, but you've got a little decor on that piece too. And finally, we are going to assemble this piece. So, and you'll notice with my adhesive, I just kind of make like a Z on the back of my card. I've switched tape runners in the last few months, and I find with these, it's a strong enough hold. I don't need to go around all of the edges, but everybody's got their own pattern for doing adhesive, and I recognize that. So do what works for you and the adhesive that you use. All right, then we're going to add that layer right here. I do like to use a little twine to kind of pep this one up just a little bit. When I'm, oh, mine's coming undone from the wrong spot. Looks like there's a little knot in there. So I came down just to start getting ready tonight, and I knew that one of the cats had gotten into some of my foam pieces. I just didn't know how bad it was. It explains why I was finding stuff. They literally chewed through some of this, and then there were a couple of them that were wearing a couple of the foam pieces. I found some of the backing sheet on the carpet down here. Not sure what provoked them. They haven't touched it in a year, but this weekend it was something that they wanted to get into. A lot of times when I'm using twine, I will take two pieces and get kind of a double bow out of it. And so I just fold my twine in half, snip it, and then I just do a little bunny ear bow and tuck it through. If I'm really struggling, I will get my bow maker out, but usually with twine, I'm pretty good. And then I can just sort of tweak, get my bows to be the same size on either side. Pull, if I could grab both tails, good golly. So we'll pull those tails in. We'll pull these tails in a little bit. I probably won't make this super big because the piece I'm gluing it to isn't going to be super big either. I don't want the bowl to take control. So I'll trim off most of the tails. And then I'm just going to use, from my cat chewed sticky dots, I'm going to grab, they even unwound it like a roll of toilet paper and chewed up my sticky little dots here as well. I'm sure they had fun. So now we've got a little bow on that anchor. I still think that looks just a teeny bit blah. And so I am going to look for gems of some kind that I can put on here that maybe will perk this up just a tiny bit. No, I don't like how those look. What about those? I think we'll do this. There's a little bit of flecks of metallic in these, and I think it'll really... I did my nails a few weeks ago, and they've grown out enough that now they're longer than I know how to use them. All right. So we're just going to go like that and add a little bit of that bling on there just to decorate things up a little bit. Sometimes I have to see what it's going to look like before I figure out how much of that I want to put on, but I do like that look, and I think those gold flecks actually add to the card, picking up the kind of brownish tone of that rope. So sometimes it's good to play around a little bit. Now this, I know I want to have centered on the card, which means I don't want to have any adhesive on this half of the card. And so I'm just going to take my tape runner and run 2 strips along the edge. If I get too close, all I need to do is fold that back just so it isn't showing. And then I can come back to the front of my card and work on getting it centered top to bottom and left to right and adhere it. And I did a good job not going too far over. And that is our card for tonight. I will redo this video and post it on YouTube as a finished video, but did want to make sure that I could at least share this card with you guys tonight because I was so excited when I found it. You can see thank you card. I could just as easily have put a birthday sentiment there, but I was struggling finding one that fit into that space. So let me run through measurements again real quick for you so that you can write those down if you didn't already. The base of my card is 5.5 by 8.5. It's scored at 2 1/8 and 4 1/4. This particular piece measures 10.5 by 4 inches, scored at 5 1/4. This piece right here is 3 3/4 inches by 5 inches. This piece of patterned or designer paper is also 3 3/4 by 5 inches. This panel right here measures 2 inches, 1 7/8 inch by 5 1/4 inches. The designer series paper measures 1 5/8 by 5 inches. You need 2 each of the cardstock and that designer series paper so that you can do these panels. And these were just cut from scraps of paper that I had. And that is the card. You can decorate the inside as much or as little as you want. You could put something more on there, but I kind of like the idea of letting my designer paper speak for itself. Figure out fun ways that you can combine patterns and colors to create this card and embellish with just a little bit of stamping, some bling if you need it, and you've got yourself a gorgeous little card. You can also write a note in here. One of the things that I like about this card is sometimes I don't necessarily want everybody in the world to see what I wrote to somebody. Not for any particular reason. I just don't think it's their business. And so with this particular card, they could still have it sitting out, but anything that you write to the recipient isn't going to be visible because that flap will stay down. So something to think about. It's a great way to use up if you have odds and ends of designer series paper as well. But again, I'm calling this the Z Fold Flap card. It was inspired by one that I saw from Creative Moments by G. And if you have any questions, or more importantly, you decide to make this card and would be willing to post a picture in the comments, I would love to see what you've created. I do believe that we can inspire each other with our creativity, and this is just an opportunity for you to do that. Take care, everybody, and have fun spreading joy one card at a time. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.